that we've held some very important beliefs that have been transmitted from science to the public. And the issue about that is in converting the scientific information into public words, a lot of the meaning has been shifted around, and it's not exactly the truth. So there's a thing that you've heard about genetic determinism, for example, that you are controlled by genes. And during the first hour of this presentation tonight, what I really want to show you is the other truth, that there is a truth that says that, in fact, that you're not controlled by genes, you're actually controlled by your perceptions of the environment. And as we'll talk about, perceptions mean beliefs. And the significance about this is that when we talk about genes, and we talk about genetic illnesses or genetic predispositions, let me give you an important factoid first. Indeed, there are things called genetic defects, and they affect about 5% of the population. Well, what I'm really trying to address is this. It's the 95% of the population that got here with wonderful genes and were capable in all ways being biologically sound, and yet end up expressing illnesses and cancers and early death and cardiovascular diseases. And there's a tendency, of course, for us to put this emphasis and onus on the genes, but it turns out, no, it really turns out that it's how the genes are selected and rewritten by our belief systems. What's going on during the pregnant period? According to OBGYN, all developmental unfolding of genes, nothing for the mother to worry about. Uh-oh, mistake, wrong picture. We look at an embryo and we think, well, it's an undeveloped, unfinished thing. It's still developing. We look at the embryo's brain, and the common perception and written in books today is that the fetus brain is not really developed. That in fact, even after the baby is immediately born, the brain is not fully developed. It's even been suggested that babies can't even feel pain. Oh, this is a belief system, and that's why, hey, you don't need to anesthetize a baby. You're going to give it a circumcision? Just cut that skin. It won't mean anything. What do you think the baby's screaming for? Oh, because we're constraining it. No. And the reality is the brain is functional through at least halfway through fetal development. It is functional. And therefore, it is not just passive. Two very important books are these books, one by Thomas Verney, the other by David Chamberlain, two brilliant scientists in the field of pre- and perinatal health. These are very important. What they're telling you is, contrary to public opinion that the brain isn't developed, in fact, it is quite developed and quite aware of what's going on. The reason is it's adjusting its biology to that perception of what it experiences. And then to demonstrate this for you, I want to show you a sonogram. And this is a sonogram that was taken in an experimental situation, that the mother was getting a sonogram, and then the father created an argument with the mother, and to observe what happens to the fetus. Now, if the fetus wasn't really paying attention, it wouldn't really care what's going on. Watch this. It's in Italian. You won't understand it. Watch the fetus. I'll play it again a couple of times. I want you to see it. The reason it's very important for this. This fetus is aware of this argument and is responding. Watch it jump. These are convulsions of panic and fear. The child, fetus, is already acquiring knowledge of what's going on, and is downloading this awareness. So what's going on during the pregnant period between the parents is totally influencing the expression of this child and the future of this child. So rather than our belief that the mother is just providing nutrients, we must add this important fact. She provides information. She provides information about the environment. The reason is, it's based on creating a child that's going to survive. And who knows, if all of a sudden you live in a war environment, then maybe you better change the physiology of your child to survive in that environment. That's why nature created the flexible, dynamic unfolding of a child. And it's important for you to understand that your thoughts and your perception while a child is being carried in utero are not just yours, they belong to the child as well. And it will learn from that. So how do I activate the gene? Well, you heard of cancer genes? And you say, what is that, a gene that gives you cancer? And the answer is, here's a simple truth.
Genes do not self-activate. That's biochemically a truth, meaning a gene cannot turn itself on and a gene cannot turn itself off. If you want a gene to be active, it's not up to the gene. So the concept that there's a cancer gene is a false concept, meaning this: if the gene really caused cancer and you were in possession of that gene, when would you express the cancer? You would express it by the time you were born, because as soon as the cells started to divide, the cancer gene would say, okay, time to make cancer. So how can you have so-called cancer gene for 30 or 40 years sitting in your body and you don't have cancer, and then you get cancer? Should I go back and say the gene caused that? And the answer is no. In this paper by Niehaut, Metaphors in the Roles of Genes in Development, he played it out in this a simple statement of truth that I'm going to show you, because I want to use his paper because the statement is so perfect. But the fact is this: what did he say? He said this: for 50 years, we have believed that genes are in control. We've been repeating it and saying it over and over again for 50 years so that it's part of every textbook. And the bottom line was, that was never a scientific reality. It was never scientifically established that genes control anything. It's not true. What is the truth? Well, the answer is this. The first thing, conventional belief, genes control biology, is totally false. Why? Genes can't turn themselves on. Genes can't turn themselves off. How are they going to control anything? They can't control themselves. So bottom line is, the genes aren't in charge. So the question is, if I need a gene to be activated, and why would a gene be activated? To make the proteins for the cell that needs to do the behavior. So the truth statement is this: when a gene product is needed, a signal from its environment, not an emergent property of the gene itself, activates expression of the gene. Well, that's somewhat of a complicated sentence, so let's simplify it. Just read line 2 and line 4. And if we read that, it says, a signal from its environment activates expression of the gene. What does that mean? The genes in your body are selected not because they're self-selecting. The genes are always selected in response to the environment that you're in. So if you had that cancer gene and for 35 years, let's say, you stood around saying, hey, I don't have cancer, and all of a sudden cancer happened, are we going to go to the gene and blame the gene, or what would we actually look for as responsible, if you understand the truth statement? The signal from the environment. What change in your life promoted activation of the gene that was sitting dormant for 35 years? We've been focusing on the gene all the time. The point is, we have to start focusing on the signals. The signals do this.
It's usually this process, I'd say on average, takes about 2 to 5 minutes for most beliefs to change. Small price to pay for something you've had all your life that's been arresting your life and keeping it from being in that ecstasy, the picture that we saw, and really promoting a lot more of the protection and the scream energy to your life. So it can shift, it does shift, and it's not about me doing something, it's about her. In fact, all of Psyche is really about very little about the facilitator and a whole bunch about the innate wisdom and the divinity within each of us. It's activating that and moving it into a specific area of intention and giving the tools to the subconscious mind to do the job that it is capable of doing with the proper instruction for doing it. Sometimes when the change is taking place, this is another interesting aspect of this process, is that it's not particularly visual. You don't have to visualize anything. If you're not a good visualizer, you don't have to make a picture in your head to make things come true. If you tend to be more auditory, you make sounds in your head, you talk to yourself in your head, you'll go there. However the belief is wired in that needs to be changed, that's what she's going to get internally. So sometimes you'll get pictures, sometimes you'll get sounds, sometimes it's just your body, you're feeling. You'll feel the body change, you'll feel the muscles tense and then release. Happens differently for each person and different with each belief. Okay, she seems to think something's going on here, so we'll check this out. So unhook your ankles and your wrists, unhook these guys. Put your fingertips together like so. Just hold them there. This is equivalent to the save command. If you think about what she was just doing in a computer metaphor, she was editing the documents that kept her from believing she deserves this life that's going to work. Then we're saving this to the hard drive. We're making it a permanent document in her subconscious mind so that it won't just go away. It's the same thing as you always save your work before you turn your computer off, so it's there when you get Get it next time? Same idea, so you can let go of that. Put your arm out to your side. I'm just going to test to see where we are with the process right now. This is a sort of intermediate deal, so just listen. This process is complete, so be strong if you can. Good, I get a nice strong response. You can stand back up, please. I'm going to remove the chair here. We're at a place where her subconscious just reported to me, I've had enough of that. I got it. Thank you. So we're going to verify it and see if that's really true. So I'm going to press a lot harder than I've been pressing just to make sure if this is true, that there's no doubt it is. I want you to say out loud, I deserve happiness and success in my life. Looking down, say it like you mean it.
I deserve happiness and success in my life.
And be strong. Yeah, if I let go, she brings like a springboard. Nice going. That's
Thank you.
Good for you. So hang in here for just a minute. So I'm just wondering if, Karen, would you mind saying a little bit about what was going on while you were sitting down there?
Well, I started saying all the things, no, you don't, everybody's going to be jealous of you, you have to feel guilty. And then all of a sudden it was like, well, wait a minute. God wants everybody to be happy and successful in their life. And if God wants everybody to be happy and successful in their life, God wants you to be happy and successful in your life.
Bingo.
And when I went through that process, it just, it was very logically based. If this, then that, know.
So did you tend to hear, was that a conversation going on in your head more than anything else?
But then as soon as I realized that, I felt like just kind of like a lifting, like a happiness type of thing.
Well, I think that I deserve happiness and success. Might have something to do with the feeling getting to come in for a change. She went from the scream to the ecstasy pretty quickly right there. Thank you very much. Enjoy the change.
Okay.
This car, which I drove to the airport to get to this lecture today, is from 1986. It was one of the 97% of the cars that came off the assembly line in perfect shape. Where are the rest of the cars? I don't see these on the road anymore. The answer are, they're mostly in junkyards. Well, what happened to them? They're defective. Well, wait, only 2 to 3% were defective. What happened to the other ones? They didn't come off the assembly line defective, and the answer was this. We left out the driver. The driver has responsibility to the machine. So what does that mean? Well, if you have improper maintenance of your vehicle, it'll end up in the junkyard. If you're a bad driver, bad driving skills will cause your vehicle to end up in the junkyard. Why is this relevant, this analogy? Because of this. When we look at these, we find that greater than 95% of people are born came off the assembly line in perfect shape. I can't blame the mechanism. What did we leave out? We left out the driver. Medicine doesn't talk about the driver. Medicine, allopathic medicine, says it's a machine. If there's anything wrong with it, it's just something defective with the machine. It does not include you as part of the health and healing issue, which is totally different than chiropractic, which brings the patient in as part of the healing effort. The patient is the driver. So the reality is, if the driver handles your body with improper maintenance, then obviously it's going to cause a defective physical body and lead you to the junkyard earlier. Or if you're driving with bad driving skills, a crash and burn kind of life, you will also end up in the junkyard. The relevance about this is you're not just a vehicle, you're a vehicle with a driver. The driver is the innate. And why this is relevant is because somewhere between the innate coming in and the physical expression of the body, if there's a distortion, then the physical body is thrown out of balance, and then there's a defect. It had nothing so per se to do with the physical mechanism. It had to do with the driver. And this is one of the profound differences between allopathic and chiropractic healing, is that in chiropractic healing, through the innate, you, the spirit, the identity, you are relevant to the physical expression of the machine. You are not the victim of genes.